Right now on the National Weather Desk, the United Nations now says 2023 is the hottest year in human history. The Atlantic hurricane season ends quietly. We'll look back on the significance of the season. We'll help you understand king tide season and why it can be such a problem in the Pacific Northwest. Do you suffer from Christmas tree syndrome? It could be a problem after taking your tree home. We'll take a deep dive into Google's claim that its artificial intelligence weather forecasting is more accurate than current models and meteorologists. And the surprising find inside a tornado-damaged church.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. The United Nations Weather Agency now says we are living through the hottest year in human history. The World Meteorological Organization says they can make that declaration now, 1 month before the end of the year. The group's report says global temperatures in the first 10 months of 2023 were 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit above the pre-industrial average. And while some of the heat can be attributed to El Nino, the report finds greenhouse gas emissions are mostly responsible. The Atlantic hurricane season is officially over. As we here at the National Weather Desk count down the 183 days until next year's season, meteorologist Jennifer Collins at our station in West Palm Beach looks back on the impact of the 2023 season.
Well, as we mark the end of the 2023 hurricane season, we're looking back on this past season. We had 20 total storms in the Atlantic basin, including an unnamed storm in the month of January. 7 of those became hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. Now with 20 total storms, it actually marks the 4th most active season on record since 1950, despite the fact that we had El Nino in the Atlantic basin, which tends to suppress any hurricane activity. That, of course, was counteracted by record warm sea surface temperatures, which allowed storms to intensify. The most active hurricane season on record, of course, was 2020 with 30 total storms that season. We started out the season, of course, with that unnamed storm that ended out the season with Tammy as a Category 2 hurricane. Looking at the total picture of all of those storms, only 3 made landfall in the U.S. this season. Tropical Storm Harold in southern Texas, Ophelia in North Carolina, and Idalia along Florida's Gulf Coast, of course, taking that direct hit. In late August, the storm was a Category 3 when it made landfall near Keaton Beach on August 30th. And as we look forward to the next season, that will begin on June 1st of 2024. The National Hurricane Season will release its hurricane season outlook. That'll be in mid-May.
From the Atlantic, we head to the Pacific, specifically the Hawaiian Islands. A flood watch remains in effect for all the islands today as heavy rains continue to pound the state. Areas near Hana on Maui saw 20 inches of rain in 24 hours. Some homes have flooded and some roads are closed. The rain is part of what's known as a Kona low. These systems bring tropical moisture to Hawaii, and they can stick around for days because they're cut off from the primary atmospheric flow. Here on the mainland, there's a marginal risk of severe storms for 6 million people living along the Gulf Coast today, from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. That system will move east this weekend, bringing rains to the southeast and the eastern seaboard. It's king tide season in the Pacific Northwest. Meteorologist Kristen Clark explains what king tides are and why they're getting more dangerous every year.
King tide is a popular term people use to describe exceptionally high tides. Ordinary tides are caused by the gravitational pull between the Earth, Sun, and Moon. Higher than normal tides occur on and around the dates of the new and full moon, known as spring tides. These already higher than average tides are exacerbated when spring tides coincide with the moon in perigee, which means the moon is particularly close to Earth and has an even greater gravitational pull on the ocean. These strong tidal forces can cause high tide flooding, inundating the land, especially in low-lying areas. Because of land subsidence, rising seas, and loss of natural barriers, high tide flooding is now twice as frequent in U.S. coastal communities as it was 20 years ago.
So the highest tides of the year, the king tides, typically occur in winter for 2 reasons. The Earth is closest to the sun around the new year, and winter is the stormiest time of the year along the west coast when these large Pacific cyclones with deep low pressure cause the water level to rise.
While flooding can occur even on sunny days in the absence of storms, more severe flooding may occur if high tide coincides with heavy rain, strong winds, or large waves.
A little over a week ago, attention in South Central Virginia was on wildfires burning thousands of acres. Now that those fires are out, attention is quickly moving to the next season, winter. Mia Nelson got an inside look at how Virginia DOT crews are preparing to keep the roads safe.
Since July, preparations for winter weather have been underway in VDOT's Lynchburg district.
Whereas last year we got a big break, we really didn't get much in the way of snow at all. This year it could be a very different situation.
I toured part of the facility where they store the salt for the roads and make the brine. VDOT tells me they have 3 of these new brine machines throughout the Lynchburg district. They say it will speed up the brine making process.
You put in here however much you want, say 5,000 gallons.
When they're making the brine stuff with the new system, is they can be shipping as they're making it.
Len Stevens with VDOT says the number one thing you can do this winter is be weather aware and plan your travel around any storms.
The safest place to be during a winter storm is indoors, not out on the roads. We really want the message to be, please stay off the roads, especially if it's a severe event.
The district covers more than 17,000 lane miles, and for snow purposes, it's a little more than 15,000 miles. That's like driving cross-country between New York City and Los Angeles more than 5 times. Stevens says they have $10 million for winter maintenance and more than 460 VDOT and contracted employees ready to tackle the roads.
The attitude that these folks have is whatever winter throws at us, we're going to get it done.
In Maine, the summer of 2023 was one of the wettest in recent memory. Now there's concern the overflow added stormwater and sewage to Casco Bay. That's home to many beautiful island communities, and it's where many lobsters live before being caught. Meteorologist Ryan Munn shows us the project under construction that should prevent this from happening in the future.
The wastewater treatment facility at Long Casco Bay is where the initial CSO flows into, known as combined sewer overflow, which is a combination of stormwater and sanitary sewer water.
And when we have the amount of rain that we did, the facility simply can't take it. So it's not that the facility has done anything wrong. The facility is actually really well run. It's that water has to go somewhere, and it ends up going into the bay.
You may have noticed a construction site right off of I-295 in Portland. Glenn Adams, the design build project manager for Sargent Corporation, says this is an important project to limit the combined sewer overflow.
The initial up to 3.5 million gallons of CSO from the Bayside area will be diverted into these tanks. It will be held temporarily until the Northeast Treatment Plant can treat the CSO.
This will no doubt be a huge weekend for Christmas tree shopping. This morning we have a warning about Christmas tree syndrome. As Abigail Verowick explains, it's not an allergy to the tree, but something that grows on it after you take it home.
Of all the allergies, nuts, dairy, even animals, many don't think it would be their Christmas tree behind their runny nose. But that's just one of the symptoms of Christmas tree syndrome. Unlike the name implies, it's not a reaction to the tree itself, but the spores of mold that can come after trees are cut and then bundled. Mold can rapidly grow in the moist, tight-wrapped environment trees have on their way to their lots. According to IQ Air, it's only about 7% of the population with allergies that suffer from Christmas tree allergies. Those who forego a real Christmas tree, though, are not entirely out of the woods either. Depending on how their artificial tree is stored, it can also grow mold too. Local nurseries and tree lots say it's around this time of year most people are picking out their tree and getting it ready for the season.
People need to realize that the trees are grown outside, they're harvested, and then they are usually drug or carried through grasslands and some other weeds, so they're picking up pollen and dust. This is then brought into the nursery here.
Experts recommend washing your tree and letting it dry before bringing it into your home. Also, using a leaf blower can help dislodge any dust, pollen, and dirt that could cause mold to grow as well.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how AI could change the future of weather forecasting. And we'll find out what causes dry skin in the winter months.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a mild day on tap in the Northeast today. Look at these temps warming into the 50s. A few spots will stay in the 40s. It's sun to increasing clouds today. Look for some late day rain to get going. Notice some of that wet weather moving in during the afternoon and evening. That's about 5 p.m. Best chance for any snow will be over the higher peaks in the mountains. Then as we head into Saturday, there is the chance for a few showers that day. Temperatures are still on the mild side, at least in southern New England and northern New Jersey. We'll keep an eye on a storm for Sunday night into Monday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looks like west of I-95, that's our best risk of starting the day potentially wet on our Friday as our next weather maker moves in during the PM commute. Everybody's getting likely some rain. Not very pretty here. Could be some travel delays. And then as we head into the later afternoon, most of that begins to move east. High temperatures generally going to be in the low to mid 50s area wide. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looks like we're seeing temperatures at 62 degrees in Raleigh, 73 Charleston, 69 Macon, about 63 in Nashville, 74 Mobile, 80s down in parts of Florida. It looks like we're seeing frontal boundary pushing through the area across parts of Atlanta, down through parts of Mississippi and along the coastline there. It could be some heavy rain, especially in Louisiana as we get into the evening on Friday. But we're looking at a little bit of clearing over parts of Florida with high pressure moving on off to the east.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Google DeepMind recently introduced an AI model for weather forecasting. Initial studies show it is far outperforming traditional computer models in both speed and accuracy. So what does this mean for the future of forecasting, not to mention meteorologists? We asked meteorologist Emily Gracie to find out.
GraphCast is a state-of-the-art machine learning model that predicts the weather over the entire globe. It is a model that is learned from 40 years of historical weather data. And it predicts, the state of the atmosphere and the weather, like over the entire globe in 3Ds up to 10 days ahead. So traditional approaches like numerical weather predictions, they have those equations describing the state of the atmosphere and how it changes all the time. The problem with those traditional approaches is that solving those equations is extremely difficult and it requires a lot of compute to be able to solve them accurately. And so GraphCast takes a very different approach. It doesn't solve those equations at all. It just looks at basically pattern in historical data to learn how the weather evolves. And then once the model is trained, basically, it can make extremely accurate prediction, extremely fast.
So what is GraphCast really good at? What does GraphCast struggle with?
GraphCast is really good at predicting kind of the overall weather over the entire globe. And I would say like one thing that was quite surprising is that it's also good at predicting severe events. But what we saw is that after training GraphCast, when we looked at the forecast, we could run a tracker on top of the forecast of GraphCast, and we could like actually accurately pinpoint like the trajectories of cyclones. We also characterize atmospheric rivers and also extreme temperatures. In terms of limitation, I would say that it's a deterministic model, so it's not designed really to quantify uncertainty.
So I'm curious about the role of a meteorologist in all of this and what you foresee the future being with kind of that melding of a human being doing a forecast and AI.
Yeah, I don't think people should be worried about that, to be honest. I think it's quite exciting development that we're seeing. There's no one being replaced. It's a very different way of thinking about how to improve forecasts going forward. And I think we're going to see a lot of interaction between the two fields, and it's going to be quite exciting. And everybody's going to be benefiting from better forecasts.
To hear more about Google DeepMind and other AI projects they have in the works, check out the unedited version of this interview on YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe while you are there. We're not sure if that AI program can forecast beach erosion, but a new report suggests it could be helpful. It found an increase in severe weather events is causing beach erosion to happen in Oregon more often than ever. Meteorologist Allison Gottlieb is in Portland with more.
El Nino is a climate-related event that contributes to beach erosion. Those effects are clear on Oregon's coast. According to Jonathan Allen with the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries, when El Nino occurs, we observe above-average wave conditions with shifts in the predominant storm track southward.
What it means is that the waves approaching in wintertime during El Nino years are coming more from a southerly to southwesterly quadrant.
To put this in simple terms, Oregon's beaches are losing sand and shrinking. Experts say we have to think about the best ways to manage and nourish our beaches.
In Oregon, when we experience erosion, a lot of homeowners who are on the front line of erosion and seeing those beaches sort of shrink in front of them have responded with, seawalls or with riprap. And largely in Oregon, that's not allowed, actually, if your house was developed prior to 1977.
If you visited the coast in Central Oregon, you might notice you can't walk on some beaches at high tide. That's a result of shoreline armory. Armoring is the practice of using physical structures to protect the coastline.
When we have a situation where we're armoring the coastline, we're going to have a situation where we basically start to lose some of that recreational beach. And that's going to depend upon how fast sea level rise actually occurs. And so right now, there's still a whole bunch of uncertainty.
While things like seawalls and riprap, which are the human-placed rock, work short-term, these are not great solutions for long-term. Plyben believes there needs to be more engineering and guidance on nature-based solutions. One such solution is already working along the Washington coast.
Are what we refer to as dynamic cobble revetments. And so these are features that are basically mimicking natural cobble beaches that are very dynamic, so that the stone is small enough such that these features might evolve with waves and still dissipate wave energy and reduce backshore flooding and erosion.
Other solutions could be dune restoration, such as constructing sand fences or planting vegetation.
Several parts of the country saw winter weather this week, and of course, much more is coming in the months ahead. The National Weather Service has changed how and when it will issue winter storm warnings. Meteorologist Matt Gunn explains.
Winter and snow go hand in hand. Snow can even fall over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, as we just saw. With more snow expected this winter, it's important for the public to learn about a subtle change to the criteria for a winter storm warning to be issued. In years past, all National Weather Service offices had the same criteria to follow, but that is not the case this year for when a storm calls for heavy snow. Starting this year, a specific amount of snow must be forecast to fall in the area of a National Weather Service office for that group to issue a winter storm warning. For example, at least 5 inches of snow would need to be projected to fall in Kirksville for a winter storm warning to be issued by the National Weather Service office out of Kansas City. In Ottumwa, that amount would need to be at least 6 inches of snow, and then the National Weather Service Des Moines office would issue the warning. These warnings are issued between 12 and 24 hours and occasionally 36 hours before the event starts. As warning coordination meteorologist Rich Kinney for National Weather Service Quad Cities says, safety is of utmost importance during the winter.
If conditions are going to be really bad, really consider delaying your travel. In extreme winter weather, it's really not worth risking your life or the life of your family.
4 years ago, a powerful tornado devastated portions of central Texas. One church in particular suffered heavy damage, but before congregants could rebuild, they found something very unexpected in the rubble. As Adela Uchida explains, the find allowed this church to go back in time.
People were devastated. It looked like a bomb had gone off.
Billy Bob Cox is the minister at the historic San Gabriel Christian Church, which suffered devastating damage.
But we probably took the brunt of the damage. Our parsonage was beyond repair. Our Family Life Center got some damage, but the chapel not the most.
In a 2019 tornado, but Cox says they couldn't have imagined what they would find once they began to rebuild.
Because originally they had wallpaper over that wood, even on the ceiling, and it had been probably 25, 30 years ago, they put carpet down on the floor, so nobody remembered, had any idea what it looked like.
Most of what you see today is the original wood, original pews, and a stained glass window that amazingly survived the tornado. A blessing after church members first saw what the cyclone had done. Today, though, they're not worried about what tomorrow might bring.
Live in Texas, there's going to be tornadoes.
And time now for a short break, but first we take flight over Baltimore's Inner Harbor.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckemichael. Taking a look here across the Midwest. We've got some rain, even some snow on the northern, colder edge of this system for the day today. If you live across the far north part of the Midwest, pretty quiet but cold. Highs in the 30s. Moving ahead into the day tomorrow, it's more of a scattered, intermittent, light, misty, drizzly rain for your Saturday. Sunday, ramping up the rain a little bit more for us across the same general area, but staying cool.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. It's chilly this morning. Look at that, 26 Amarillo. We're looking 40s out in Oklahoma City, a little warmer from New Orleans down to South Texas. Showers and thunderstorms still pushing through portions of Louisiana. Dry air still settles in. We'll look at more sunshine today. Things will warm up, but there could be some big storms in and around Houston. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, TGIF, good Friday morning to you, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. First day of December, and out west, it's going to be a damp one in the PNW, where there's a big set of storms that will be steering into Seattle, Portland, and Spokane as we head into this first December weekend. 36 out of Salt Lake City, eventually some snow on the way for the Wasatch. You can see the rounds of wet weather pushing into the Puget Sound region and heading towards Salt Lake as we head into this weekend. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's that time of year where we start to see dried skin and chapped lips. But do you know how this happens? Meteorologist Christina Ernie explains.
Chapstick, chapstick, chapstick. Chapped lips this time of year? Awful. This is the time of the year that chapped lips are a pain, literally. This time of the year, we start to see those cold temperatures work in, which dries out our skin, which is why our skin and our lips get so chapped. Also, you might not be thinking of it, but since it's not so hot out, you might not be drinking as much water, so you're actually getting dehydrated, which is why your skin is getting so dry. And another reason, a lack of humidity. Once you start to crank up the heat in your house, that dries out our skin as well. So instead of just getting used to chapped lips, here's what you can do. Number one, make sure that even when you turn the heat on in your house, you're keeping the house humid. So maybe have a humidifier on when you're sleeping. Also, make sure that you're moisturizing your skin, especially your lips, especially before you go to bed as well, so they can heal. Finally, if you go outside and it's windy and cold, protect your lips.
If you want to see more content like this, check us out on social media. You can find us on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. Thank you for joining us. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.